All right, welcome everybody to a regular Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, March 5th, 2018, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a reminder to those who haven't done so already, if you could please sign in as guests on the clipboard in the back, it'd be much appreciated. Also a reminder that if you wish to speak at all during the meeting, please raise your hand and wait to be called on by myself. And we really like to hear one voice at a time so that everyone in the audience can hear and the records that and the notes that are taken can be accurate. Yeah, we're moving that up.
Okay.
I've got one adjustment to the agenda. We have a special group of kids here that are currently under new business, and we're going to move them up for their memorial bench request at the town park to just under number 4, public to speak on a non-agenda item. Yeah, you don't need to sit through a boring meeting.
Oh, they need the experience.
You ever wanted to run for office?
Civics class.
Tim, any other adjustments to the agenda?
No, Madam Chairman.
All righty. Moving on to number 3, review and approve meeting minutes. The first is for February 12th. It was a budget meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, February 12th, as presented with any errors or corrections.
Shelley's motion
Second.
and Donnie seconds. Any suggested corrections or changes? All those in favor? And abstain?
abstain.
Yeah. So 4 in favor, 1 abstaining. Jim was absent. Second, the approval of a regular Board of Selectmen's meetings minutes for Monday, February 26, 2018.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion we approve the February 26, 2018 regular meeting minutes with any corrections or additions.
Okay, Donnie's motion
Second.
and Shelley seconds. Any suggested changes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next, section 4, public to speak on a non-agenda item. Yes?
Thank you.
Steve?
Steve Philbrick. First of all, thank you one more time for the town and their hard work for the Cystic Fibrosis Ride. I'm pleased to report it was a phenomenal success. We raised over $30,000 for cystic fibrosis. Interesting note, over the last 5 years that we've done this, we've raised close to $150,000 for CF. In the last 5 years, the expected life expectancy for people with CF diagnosed today used to be 13 years old. Now, it's 50. So they're making some great strides in this particular endeavor. Thanks again for all your help. Appreciate it.
Wow, what a wonderful event. You know, it's nice seeing the pictures posted as well.
Yeah,
It's,
thank you.
yeah, very well attended.
Oh, the circle thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, the carousel.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work. There were a lot of vendors this year. There was, the Snowmobile Club was there. It was just a great event all the way around. I think everybody enjoyed themselves, so.
Yeah,
It's
wonderful.
nice to see these kind of carnival, family-oriented type of events. And thank you once more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other public to speak on a non-agenda item? Going once, going twice. Joe?
Yes, is the town looking into buying that old, that lot down there by, behind Rexall, old Rexall there? Franklin Savings Bank.
The foreclosed on property?
Town, I think about, get pretty serious about buying that for parking lot.
That went up, that's already been to public auction and there wasn't a bite, is that correct?
Right, it's for sale if anybody wants to buy it. I think the town should look.
And why do you say that, Joe, just out of curiosity?
Good parking, I mean, it's a beautiful spot for, I don't know, that's just my idea. I bet somebody checked, you probably get 20, 30 cars in there.
All right.
You need a second?
No, this just, yeah, no second there.
That's conflict.
All right, thank you, Joe. It's been noted, and we'll go from there. Any other public to speak on a non-agenda item? All right. Moving on to a request for a memorial bench at the town park. So who would like to talk about that?
Bill, would you like to talk about it? I don't want to put you on the spot, I will if you'd like to. No.
So,
Can you say your name, please?
I'm Will Dugan,
Okay, thank you.
and me and a couple other classmates want to get this bench for our friend Eli, and we want to honor his personality and the life that he lived, but not the choice that he made.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I understand you've already had a chat with the Park Commission, right? They gave their stamp of approval. All right. We don't know where it will be located yet, right? You kind of have to wait and see. We've got a lot of park improvements going on here right now. So that's a work in progress.
Correct.
Have you thought of a design yet, or are you still thinking about that?
They gave the Parks Commission a specific location of where they want it.
Okay.
So they have that with them. It's going to be in the new park area, so I guess there's going to be certain benches that are gonna be put there. They're all probably gonna match, I assume. We would like to do one of those, that would be the first choice, but the second choice would be the new area going up to the IGA, to the overlook.
Yeah.
But they really like it in the park,
Mm-hmm.
if that could possibly happen. And I know there's some park money there. They're willing to do a lot of fundraising if that doesn't fall through for us. If it falls through for us, we'll do the fundraising, but if not, I mean, if they can get it paid for, that would be amazing as well. But they're more than willing. They have several ideas for fundraising.
Okay.
So I guess it has to wait until the park is more figured out what's happening there. But yes, and I think we just need your approval to start fundraising.
Okay. Yep, Tim?
So, I've been in contact with Mary, and we talked a little bit about this, and talked to the Park Commission. I kinda haven't really sat with Kenny yet, but I talked to Joe about it at length, because this was one of Joe's outgoing projects. And me and Joe had the same idea that we want to propose to the group that as we reinstall the new playground area, and Kenny, I think you got some pictures that you can show, the new bathhouse and the walkways. Do you have those with you tonight?
I have them, yep.
Can you put one of those up that shows the walkways and the,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so, but do you have one that's colored?
Nope.
Okay, that's all right. So, this
That
shows.
one's pink.
Kenny, you got one with a bench on it?
Yeah, I got one with a bench on it.
There's
So
all
there-
walkways.
There's gonna be an area. There's gonna be an area here. So this is the new proposed bathhouse, and then of course down here is the beach and so forth. I'm sorry, down here's the beach. And there's parking and so forth. There's this nice area right here that's looming and seated. And I was thinking, talking with Joe, we thought this might be a great spot, that we could put that bench there, so that has people walk down the path to go down to the bathhouse and go down to the lake. That bench would be right there. They could see it. This is gonna be a green spot. It's gonna be seeded and grass and so forth. And we might be able to put some nice flowers around it and so forth and so on. So Joe and myself looked at it and thought that we'd like to recommend that to the committee to consider that, and see what you thought. And if not there, we can certainly find someplace else. But we thought that would be, this is, people can park here and walk here, and both these paths congregate right together, and then come down into the bathhouse, down to the beach down here. And this is nothing proposed here. So,
All right.
That would be up to these.
yeah, so you folks can consider it and talk about it if you want, let us know, but that would be one of my recommendations with Joe. We talked about it. That would be a great place, it'd be very visible. A lot of people, everybody going down would see it, because they're gonna use the walk path. and we could make that happen. The other place would be over here, there's a tree over here, some shrubs and hedges. But I think more people will park here, and this is Lake Street, would use this as a primary purpose to get down there.
And you don't have to decide tonight.
No.
So we're
It's
just
just a
showing you what the
suggestion.
layout looks like,
Yeah.
so.
So
you
there
can
are
decide tonight.
possibilities, when you get ready, talk about it, come see me, and we'll sit down and look and see what we think, and then we'll work it in with Ken when we get ready to do the final stages.
Can I ask that this young group have first refusal on that spot?
Yeah, they can have a first refusal anywhere.
Okay.
No, I don't have a problem with that. Unless, it's up to the board, but if the board approves it, then they'll have first refusal. The only place we wanna make sure that we don't put it in in a walking area, that someplace that, and we, talking with Joe, was Joe's and my commitment that if the board approved it, that this get put into a place that's very visible, that it doesn't get in, we don't want it put into the back corners. We want it someplace where it's very visible, where everybody will see it, for all the hard work for the kids, and certainly for Eli and family.
Jim?
I was just gonna suggest maybe Kenny could give the class a printout of this with that location, and maybe just show where other park benches might go, and then they could take it to their class and they can discuss it, and maybe bring it, and then have it brought back to us.
That would be good.
All right, so, yeah, Steve.
Madam Chair, there is a bench that's already in the town park, that's a memorial bench. And I don't know what these folks are thinking, but we might want to keep the theme similar. I know it was a pretty expensive bench, but if they're willing to do a tad bit of fundraising, I'll certainly help them through Ball Mountain Camps to acquire their goal. But if they took a look at this bench that's down there, it's attractive, it's appealing, it's also a memorial bench as well too, and it might fit within the theme of the park. Help streamline things
Okay.
for the future. So, again, you guys ready to do some fundraising, you guys let me know, okay?
All right, thank you, Steve. Yeah.
If this gets approved by the board, at what point in time might the group know if there's any money available that's already been planned for these benches, so that we can know as soon as possible if we need to fundraise or not? I mean, is there any conversation on that? I know at the park commission meeting, we mentioned it to Joe about, we thought that there was some money already earmarked for these benches, and we didn't know if any of that could go towards this bench, and if not, when we could find that out so that they would have plenty of time.
Yeah, Tim?
There's no money for benches in the park right now.
Okay,
There was, and that was an extra in the project that we ran short on money.
yeah.
Okay.
And so there is no, that's one of the things, and some of the street lighting got cut out, whatever else we cut out, but we're down to pennies and the dollars trying to save money to finish the project, so there is no money for benches at this point.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
Asking on that, obviously, we would also like to do something fundraising for these guys. That being said, we close in 3 weeks, for probably at least 8 weeks. Is this something that we could say, go ahead and let them do something and put that money aside? Is that jumping the gun, or is that something that we can do before we close?
Well, this next phase won't be done and ready for a bench to be put in place till fall, Kenny? Yeah, so
The
it's,
final cleanup and stuff's gonna be just after the week after Labor Day.
yeah, so
So
there's,
we could wait and do
there's,
something this summer?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, Jim?
Does anybody have a estimate on how much a bench costs like this, just so they have a idea what they may need or whatever?
I can get that for you in terms of what the other bench was, Jim. I don't remember off the top of my
Well,
head.
I'm just thinking, that would give them a goal
Absolutely.
to kind of shoot
We have some
for.
numbers. They
I
have some
don't, I don't know what they go for.
Okay.
Do you
All
see any
right, so-
pushback at all for this project? In other words, if we started fundraising right now with them,
Let me speak.
Yeah, go
What's that?
ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this memorial bench for the park with the location and design to be determined.
Dave's motion,
Second.
and Donnie seconds. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, and that's unanimous, so you got your bench.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim?
Yes.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. You guys are good friends, aren't you?
Good job. Good job. Good job.
It's good for a handshake, Charlie Pie.
I know. Burr.
Good job, Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah. Will Dugan, you're a
Great
brave
job.
guy to speak up.
Great job.
Good job.
Good job.
All right, so we got those kids taken care of. So we'll resume normal order. Boards and committees, are there any boards and committees present to make?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
new business, did you do the auditor yet?
Yes.
Travel?
Oh, sorry about that, yes.
Mind doing him? Then I'll take care of new business.
Okay, so we have our auditor present. He finished up on the 2016-17 fiscal year, and he's here to enlighten us. So if you want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Well, thank you. My name is Ron Bollier from Ron Bollier and Company. Had the pleasure of proposing on your audit for 17, 18, and 19, and thank you very much for choosing my firm to do the audit for the 3-year period. I will pass out 2 items for everybody. Let me just get myself organized here. The first item is the thickest, so that's a auditor's report on the town's financial statements for June 30th, 2017. And then an internal control report. Okay, so why don't I just start right in. The first product is the thickest of the two. It's a independent auditor's report and management's financial statements for the town's fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. Within the spiral bound package is really two different products. Page 1 and 2 is the independent auditor's report, and then everything behind that is the town's product, which is the town's financial statements. The independent auditor's report is 2 pages long. It's a standard report. I don't design this particular report. It's already given to me. But it is a standard report in that I am presenting my opinion that these financial statements that belong to you are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. That's the highest level report that you can obtain, which is what you have achieved. If your financial statements weren't in such a good shape, you would either have a modified report or you would have a disclaimer report, adverse, where I don't issue an opinion at all. So you do have the highest level. The standards that I followed when I performed the audit were 2 different sets of standards. One is generally accepted auditing standards, and any audit in the United States has to be provided with those, in accordance with those standards. There's a second level which I use, which is called government auditing standards. That required kind of much more than a regular audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. When I perform my audit, and if I notice that accounts needs to be adjusted for different reasons, I will present those adjustments to management and ask them to make them. They don't have to. If they said no, we probably have to give you an adverse opinion. But as long as they do make the adjustments and understand it, then we're all set. I did have a number of adjustments that I made, and that can be normal for a small town. Using government auditing standards, I am required to take every one of those adjustments and make a finding out of them. So the second product that I provided you with is a report on internal control. primarily a report on internal control. And I don't issue an opinion on your system, but like I was explaining, I do have to list out situations that your internal control system can be stronger if you implement some new policies and procedures and you follow those through in your accounting system. I did make 11 findings. I've had the opportunity to review those with your management team, your town manager, and your finance director. Their response to those findings is they agree. They want to have those fixed. As a matter of fact, I know they've already have attempted to fix some of those situations. I was here mostly all day today. We worked together on some corrections, so I think they're well on their way to making these corrections. And there's a few things they may have me come back for to do a little bit of training on to get to take care of those situations. I do want to mention that the nature of this product is that I can only say the negative things. I'm not allowed to say the positive items in a report.
Oh.
And it's not my choice. So don't take a look that somebody didn't do their job right because of either the finding or the number of findings. There's a lot of things that were done correctly. If they weren't, you wouldn't have had what I call the standard report on your financial statements. But I do want to bring these to light because it will make your system much stronger. It's better for everybody. And when I have a management team that's willing to do this, it's a win-win situation. So that's everything in a nutshell, really. If you want to go over any particular items in more detail, I'll be more than happy to, but I don't want to bore you with all the technicalities of all of this. So I'm open, I'm available for questions either now, or if you'd like to call me in my office or whatever, that's fine too. Last thing is I do issue a kind of, it's not a report, it's a letter that my standards require me to issue to the chairperson, and it basically says, you know, we've done an audit. She can review that with everybody, but we've done a standard audit. We had no disagreements with management. Everything went as planned. So that was the other product. That was quick. That
Yeah.
is an overview of the audit. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
The weaknesses that you've identified is, how long does it take to correct them? I mean, you said things have already started, which is great.
Yeah, it all depends upon the actual finding. I'll give you one finding. I'll talk about one real quickly. You had a bond this year, a new bond. There's certain transactions that need to be accounted for on your computer system when that occurs, and you haven't had a bond in quite some time. So those transactions might not have been remembered to be recorded on your computer system. Additionally, the transaction of recording a bond for a town is totally different than if you guys were a corporation. So there's even confusion between regular accounting for regular corporations and governmental accounting.
Right.
Governmental accounting is getting to be very, very specific and complicated. It's not getting any easier. The body of accounting is totally different than the body of accounting for corporations and partnerships and nonprofits. So keep that in mind. We've worked today, we did some work on this particular bond. What that means is you have to have a capital project fund set up on your computer system, which is a self-balancing set of books for just that bond project, where the revenues come in and you can keep track of the expenditures over a number of years until it's totally spent. Years ago, that didn't have to be recorded as a separate fund. Today, it does. Not everybody doesn't know that. Things like that. So to implement that on your computer system, we can get the idea across and your finance director can understand and we can talk about it. And then we have to set up some new accounts and then move some dollars into those accounts and things like that.
Okay.
But,
But the program that you use is,
it's capable of handling it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was one example, if you will.
Mhm.
And I'll even throw one more out there. You had a capital lease this year, which you haven't had in many years. That has to be handled a bit differently also.
Okay.
So, it's common to see some things not being recorded that should be. But it's my job not to just say, okay, I'll fix it for you, and we're done, and then you guys never know about it. And then you don't have any findings. The idea is that you guys want to be able to do it all on your own, and I come in and just check. And that's the perfect world, and that's the system that we're supposed to be operating under. So I wanted to take the time to fully explain all of these things so that you can make the corrections. Yep.
yeah, these are spelled out nicely. Not all of us.
Yeah, we try to spell out the actual situation, why it's a situation, and what the relevant criteria is underneath that. And we do leave a space there for management's response. I have some towns I audit, management says, we're not doing it, we don't agree with it. And that's frustrating. But, you pay an auditor to tell you what should be done and what shouldn't. But that's why I wanted to mention that, in your case, your management team just said, let's take care of this stuff. What do we need to do? And let's work with it, and that's fantastic.
Yep. Super.
Yeah.
All right, so everything noteworthy is in the smaller one that the town will work towards,
Yeah.
correcting because they weren't known or made aware of in prior audits.
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, for that.
Yes.
I'd just like to say, I was very impressed with with the audit. Both me and Rebecca were very pleased with the level of detail that's gotten down to help us find the issues that need to be corrected. And I appreciate Ron spending a good part of the day educating myself and, showing Rebecca. And he's gonna come back and go over and do some training for myself and Rebecca on correcting deficiencies. And, I'm pleased to say that I'd rather know the deficiencies exist and to fix them than to never have known that they were there. But I appreciate Ron's patience in working with us and getting it, moving it forward to get it done. So I have asked him to come back for a couple trainings that I think would be beneficial to us both. And we're gonna move and correct all these mistakes in the next time, hopefully. I think, we'll always have mistakes. It's a huge project. It's a $7 million budget. But there won't be this many of them. There'll be a lot of this will be taken care of through policy development. And the treasurer's already worked, the director's already worked on some of this stuff today. And overall, very, very pleased with the audit and the detail that we reached out to. And like I say, this is the first time I'd ever heard of a government accounting audit. And it's much, what was it, Ron, you told me that's 200 pages of happy reading?
200 additional pages of standards that we need to follow. And so we utilize those standards for you. So you've got more of a product than what you had in the past.
Okay.
And Ron, can you just touch for the board, the general overall financial health of the town?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to do that. When I do an audit, I have to preface this, if you will. When I do an audit, it's to come up to my opinion that these numbers are accurate and reliable. It's not to interpret the numbers, but I am capable of interpreting the numbers, so I'll throw that in while I'm here. Your fund balance, as you all know, is a key indicator of how well you're doing, how much you have in reserves for your general fund. Maybe ties in a bit with your tax rate, how you can stabilize it. Your fund balance level is above 2 months of your budgeted expenses, which is very good. I think I knew the question was going to come up, so I already did the math on it. But I think your fund balance is $1.7 million, and 2 months would be $1.2 million. So you're at a healthy fund balance. That said, I wouldn't dive into it either.
Right.
I don't recommend towns to do that. You can have a policy at some, and I didn't notice that you had one, but you can have a policy that dictates what your level is to be. You do, okay. And I don't know, is it 2 months or is it a dollar amount?
Between 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
So you're at, 2 months would be 17%, you're at 24%. So that's good. Yeah, I don't recommend, we have some towns that will build it up and the next year you go down and up and down and up and down. So that, your cash position is very good. The fact that you are currently doing extra accounting on special revenue funds and other capital project funds beyond the park that you just bonded, you've got reserves out there also. So I think the town is is in a very fine financial shape. Yeah. So that's good.
Well, it's good you brought it up. It does get asked every year, Rebecca, what our fund balance is, what can be cut from that to offset, the property taxes, et cetera. So that's a,
Yeah, we're at, he said 24%, the policy says over 25% would be expended, so
You're right there.
yeah.
You're right there. Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This
Nice
is,
to meet you.
very, looks like it will be easy to decipher, so.
Okay.
Much
And
appreciated.
if anybody has any questions, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you.
Thanks once again for hiring my firm.
Yeah, our pleasure. All right, we will step back into order. I'll put it back out, boards and committees. Are there any boards or committees present that wish to update the board on anything? Okay. And we don't have any consent items to consider, nor do we have any correspondence, so we'll move on to old business. And is there any update with the downtown revitalization plan, Tim?
There isn't.
Okay. Town park update. I believe we've got Mr. Haley here to,
Mr. Henry, company.
Okay, we've been working with Tim, the town manager, Joe, the architect, Eric Galley, and the park commission and the select board here to get to the point where we are now. And I think the point is that we'd like to review where we are and what we have come up with, what each other's come up with, to get the project completed on time and on budget. And I think we can do it. I'm pretty much positive we can do it. Some of the things that we did, you got an outline there of this number we arrived at about 3 weeks ago, I believe, was a few $1,000s, a little bit higher than that, 547,000. And Tim and Eric Galley, myself and Joe and met on it to try to figure out where we were going to get the number and where we're going to make the cuts. And it was, we got a couple surprises in there. The Fairpoint and CMP had some fees in there that weren't in here. We got them in there, and Eric Galley come up with a deal where when we first did this back in, I think it was November, October, when Jim Kerrigan made the motion to try to work with us to do a design-build project. It was kind of, what can we do to do it? And one of the big things that we wanted to do that was positive and that we got from you folks and everybody else that's been involved, all the committees and the architect, that we wanted to keep it as all the nice characteristics of it, we wanted to keep them in place as much as we could and still and get within budget. And so to do that, we ended up with a lot of the cuts have been in the bathhouse building, changing that bathhouse from maybe a Taj Mahal down to something a little bit smaller, but it's not smaller in size, it's the same exact size. But I'll go through this one by one, and we'll look it over. The first item that we did, which we brought up to the board and got approval, you were willing to go along with it, was an irrevocable letter of credit, which we have in place of the bond, and that saved us quite a bit, almost $10,000. The next thing we did was all the other things in here are basically the same in the project, except for the ones I'm gonna outline and tell you. We got a change, and the pavement hasn't changed at all. It's the same as what was in the project, except I did highlight in red because the asphalt contract is by a product that's liquid asphalt. That's risen because of things going on in the Middle East, $46 a ton since we got this pricing last year. So that's a big one, and we're not sure what it's gonna be when it comes time to do the project. But we were also, I have always said that the town had a certain amount of money and that was it. So we can't go back and say, hey, we used more asphalt than we were supposed to, and then, the tonnage, which usually does overrun, it's gonna take a lot of work on our part to hold the subcontractor accountable on how much tonnage they do put down. They put the right quantity down to get the result that we want. And we're up for the challenge, I'm sure. The other thing here that changed here, you can see under the asphalt, there's an increase in the quantity, which is right here on 2A. This one here is kind of small, and this was actually Eric Galley that come up with it in the last meeting. We had an option to do a concrete terrace, if you remember, and then we checked around with people that did them. It was more expensive than it is now, but it was, they didn't feel that over a period of time that the concrete would hold up very well. We'd be looking at a lot of maintenance issues and cracking and appearance problems. So the option we had in the original proposal was to go to a crushed shale terrace instead of the concrete. And so we worked with Tim and Eric Galley and Joe and everybody involved in it. And Eric Galley came back and really didn't want to do the crushed shale because of people running around their bare feet and stuff on that, where they're going in and out of the bathhouse from the swimming. So he come up with the idea of doing a brick paver terrace, which is I think gonna look great. It's like what you got over at the Chamber of Commerce now, the bricks out there, which I think is gonna look great. So in order to get that, it's just a little bit wider than the overhang on the park building now, and we kept all as I told you, this building is the exact same size as it was. We took away the foundation and some of the drainage underneath it, but the brick paver is gonna be a substantial amount, 772 square feet of it he put in the new plan. Because he did that, we have to extend these pathways. This one here does happen to be a shale pathway over here, and it has to be, the brick's gonna come out with asphalt to meet that shale. And then over here, it's an asphalt sidewalk. That's gonna be extended with more asphalt to meet that pathway here off from the terrace. The same thing over here on this side. So that's where some of the changes in the money was on that. Wasn't a substantial amount of money, but it was some. And the other area that we did was on the under drain system, which is on this drawing here. It's this part right here was a 6-inch under drain. We redesigned it, which we went over with Eric and Tim. And what we're going to do now is put regular drainage that you would see in a regular haunch slab foundation. It's going to come out under the terrace, and it's all going to tie in together. But instead of having the 6-inch, we went to 4-inch with the rock, like was traditionally done up here in Rangeley, with no non-woven fabric and no river stone. But it's what works up here. The non-woven fabric sometimes has a problem with plugging out with the fines. Okay, the other thing was area drains are out, which is where's this one, Vinny? The 6-inch area drains.
The 2 catch basins up above.
Yeah, but that had the 12-inch, right? That's a different.
Yeah, that's an area drain.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
Smaller catch basin.
those two, because of that drainage and stuff being out, those area drains we didn't need, with the building being on a full foot frost wall. We didn't need, that's one of the things that we took out. The other area that he just said, we're gonna have only one catch basin, which is gonna be over here. It was, scheduled to have two, this one here was gonna be one. That's the next savings on that, on the item, and we cut the price exactly in half. We had it for two, now it's down to this one right here. The next item that's out is the 12-inch drain system. Again, we come up with other solutions that the architect and we all felt would work well, which is, this is the 12-inch pipe here, and then here and here has been reduced. 12-inch under drain system that we thought was kind of over-engineered, and everybody agreed on it. So that was 120 feet. We are gonna keep the 70 feet in from this catch basin that we're gonna put in down into the plunge pool down here by where the old parking, down by the dock area, where that old parking area was. That's still gonna be in there, so we'll have plenty of drainage. Okay, the next item that we changed was the electrical. The electrical we had, which we all agreed, we worked with the subcontractor, Rangeley Electric, and we come up with some solutions here that what we could do, and one of them is, the first item you see is underground primary electric service with conduits. That underground, some of that was taken out of the project. We went work with CMP, again, Tim and Eric, and we come up with a plan where there's 4 poles in the park. There's 2 in the viewscape that are gonna be removed, so they won't be there anymore in front of the condominiums. And then there's 2, one on Lake Street and one that feeds Gerard Marquee House, that are gonna be, new poles are gonna be put in by CMP to elevate it, to get it out of the view shed also. So it won't be, it'll be I guess the most visually pleasing that we could do and still keep it under cost-wise. In that first item, it was underground primary electric. The way it was put out for the request for proposal, there's Fairpoint in there that there's some overhead Fairpoint communication wires that go to that pole, and now that and then it goes over to one of the other poles in the park that's going to be removed. Now it's going to come down the pole and go underground to the underground. There's a pedestal down there where it goes to the condominiums for their telephone, a 25 cable wire that goes to the telephone service. So that's going to be part of it. There's also going to be part of that is going to be, we're going to go, there's already underground power in there to go from the pole on Lake Street to the new bathhouse. And then we're going to go from the new bathhouse over to feed the pedestal in the park that feeds the lights at the basketball courts. That's going to be underground, and that's part of that first item. Okay, the next 2 items are underground connections to 22 Lake Street and 7 Fuller Street. The only price that's in there, they're now going to be off of those 2 poles that we're installing. They're now going to be, the only thing that's in there is the fee from Central Maine Power Company. They had a $6,000 fee in there for connections and putting those poles in. So that's what's in those 2 items totally. It's going to be all their work, basically. And then the next item is the electrical underground, which I told you about, the service to the bathhouse, which hasn't changed. That's the same as it was bid. And the electrical service to the condos, that was a $4,631, is now zero. No underground for the condos. And if we would have went that way, there would have been another $7,000 plus fee from CMP to do that power there. So that's been taken out. So, which wasn't in our numbers ever because we weren't fully familiar with what the pricing was. It wasn't on the initial part of that. But so the next item that we're doing changing is the curbing. We went from that T1000 curbing to 6-inch granite curbing. It's going to look nice. It's going to be all exact same amount of curbing that was in the plan initially. It's going to start up here on Lake Street, up past East Lack's apartment house, and it's going to go down that sidewalk around the loop. And there's going to be some mountable curbing here, so that the pump truck there that they pump out the manholes or pickup access down this road here has got more gravel and stuff underneath this sidewalk, so they can drive, back down that or get pickups down there if they want them for maintenance. That's gonna be, the model kind like on Pond Street, High Street, that, and even let people back over it, transitions, right, so it's gonna be 6-inch granite everywhere. So it's gonna look nice. Okay, the brick paver terrace, I told you about, which is gonna go right here where the concrete terrace was gonna be. And it's gonna be this shape right here, it's gonna be kind of a, got the square type angles to it, which I think will look great with it. And that's where that's gonna go, that's another change, but that was a savings also of several $1,000s to be able to do that. The next one is the granite stairs. That was something that Eric Galley had suggested because the dollar amount of it, that we take out and use for some of these other items. And so we did, and it could be revisited later on down the road if it needed, but I think this project's gonna look great the way it is because that's the only real aesthetically pleasing thing that was really taken out of it. And that's gonna be changed with loam and seeding. That was right in here. So you still got the walkway, the asphalt walkway goes right down around, easy access to the terrace and the bathhouse. Okay, on the bathhouse, that's the other changes. We did the bathhouse using split-faced concrete block, as you can see, over here. And we're putting a hung slab in it, as I told you, versus a frost wall. And we also are doing dimensional lumber and not the timber frame lumber that was in the proposal. But basically everything else is the same size. Everything else is basically the same exact building as it was. No changes there. Anybody have any questions on any items so far?
Looks good, Kenny.
So, again, like I said, the number that was there was 531,000, and we're committed to, as long as there's no changes on the project, that somebody doesn't, you don't come back. You come back and say you want to change stuff, we're gonna meet with you and we'll give you a set price proposal saying what the changes will be if you do ask for changes. If we build it like the design says now, these changes that we got on here, and the changes I've listed here, we're gonna commit 531,000 with no increases in that, unless you do add something to it. I'm not sure if that would foresee anything would be added to it. But the original proposal we started with was 742,000, and we worked together to reduce that cost by 212,000 plus the utility fees of around 10,000 right now from Fairphone and CMP.
A lot of hard work, looks great.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of cooperation, everybody worked with us, you guys included from Jimmy made the motion to work with us, to and all of you, and we appreciate it. And like I said, I ended up doing a lot of the work on this, but it was really Joe Haley that didn't want to let it die when all the bids come in way over budget. It was good that he kept at it, and we all worked together with our subcontractors, and I think we're gonna get your approval on that and get the contract done. We'll have it done on budget and ready to use on June 28th.
Okay. All right, so, Tim, where do things stand with the town end, if...
So the next step is, I need you tonight, make a motion to approve the, they'll do design, build, and the park project for 531, no more than that expenditure, because it's really all we got left in the bank to spend anyway. So, once you approve, if you make a motion tonight and pass that, the next step is I gave Ken a list of all documents we need to do the contract. We'll put together a contract and an addendum for the design build for the bathhouse, and I'll get that in front of you to sign, or for you to approve. Once you approve that, then we'll sign it, and they're ready to start building as soon as the construction date's ready to go.
April 30th is the target date, but we've got to get locked in with a couple key subcontractors, which one of them was the concrete block people, just to make sure they're still there when we need them to be on that date. Because we're gonna be ready for the concrete blocks just about a week after that.
Granted also.
Yeah, the granite, they're pretty good on it if we go forward. Yeah, exactly.
So do you need the approval subject to information you're still waiting for, or?
No, what I need tonight is for you to approve this 531, which gives me the amount I'm gonna write the contract for. And then the documents that I've given Kenny, most of them here, and some of them will here, and he's got a few more other things he'll have to give me. We'll put all that together, and then we'll draft a simple contract, and then get that, once that's all done. But the amount tonight that I need to lock in is for the board to authorize the design build of the park for 531, period. And that Kenny knows that's the amount we're gonna work with, and that's not gonna change, and that's the piece I'll write the contract for next.
Well, I'll move that we put up to M&H logging, price of $531,000 to do the park construction. And with your approval, with the contract, as Kenny's outlined.
Yep.
Second.
All right, Jim's motion and Donnie seconds. Any more questions, comments? All those in favor? That's unanimous.
So hopefully I'm hoping we can meet, Kenny can get everything to me, hopefully I'll have a draft contract by the next board meeting. If not, the first meeting in April, we'll get that approved, and then we'll be done.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Joe.
And Joe.
All right, moving on to the marijuana moratorium language for the warrant for the public to vote on this June. It's the same one that the attorney had drafted last month, a couple months ago.
The blanks in it just need to be decided what date you want it effective on. The date of the election, June 12th, or the next day, or a year from there. It's completely up to you guys, that's why that blank is in there.
Okay. Will be pending the results of the election, so the day after. People, you know. Any other thoughts or suggestions?
13.
Okay. Yep. Day after, Tricia.
Okay.
Moving on from that, we've got Going Gold to support childhood cancer awareness. So this was voted on several months ago to approve the month of September as being identified as, you know, childhood cancer awareness. Go Gold for the month of September. We don't need any action on this, do we? It's just for information. Looks like they've got a request for.
Yeah, it's just, you got a proclamation to sign that I'll have the board sign, or you can sign in the board chair.
Okay. Any comments or questions before we move on from that? All right. The airport and Loon Lake Road alignment. We'll turn that over to Shane and Guy. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I've got a short little presentation. The manager asked us to come here. We had some conversations about Loon Lake Road and its realignment. We've got a preliminary design in place. We've reviewed that with Rebecca and the town. Tim, Joe has looked at it before he left. So Tim asked us to bring it in and share what we have, collect comments. I miss anything, Tim?
No, my goal was to have the board brief before the public hearing tomorrow night, so that you have the information.
So, Let's see.
Which I will not be able to attend, unless I'm back in time.
Okay.
No. Stand by just 1 second. I really just have a couple of slides here, but I mean the main slide. If this will work. Right here.
Kind of hard to see there, Shane.
Yeah. All right, yeah, okay. So, basically, so north is to the right, south is to the left. Runway extension here. The old existing Moon Lake Road is right here. Existing Airport Drive right here. Frenchie's Way comes off right here, goes down to the water treatment facility, and then Winter Road is right here. So the start of it here basically just comes around. It's very similar to what we've seen before, just this has a little more detail to it than it did before. Some of the key points in the design, the design criteria uses AASHTO 8. That's a policy on geometric design for highways and streets. We also used the town road design standard, chapter 27. Drainage was looked into, because right now with the proposed, the dashed line here is embankment, the total slope. So that's where the safety area for the runway is right here. So you can see, and then the property line here, the property line is this red line. So obviously drainage, there's water, stormwater will come off that. We need to make sure we get drainage. We're proposing culverts underneath Frenchie's Way here, under Winter Road. There'll be a culvert actually right here directing water south off property here. And then a culvert underneath the relocated Airport Drive that directs into this stormwater detention pond. So drainage with consideration, speed. Speed was definitely part of this. This section of road, when we talked to DOT, they didn't have any record of a posted speed limit. There is a sign on the road for 45 miles per hour. Because of the radius of turns, the speed in this section will have to be reduced to 25 miles per hour. We looked at putting up caution signs so that when you come in either direction, you see the yellow signs, slow down to 35. But that didn't help the situation out because of the amount of room that we have to turn and move around here. Banking curves, basically, if you understand what super elevated is as opposed to ground, you'll super elevate here on this curve, and then you'll come back and super elevate again, and then you'll super elevate again back the other way around this curve. Sight distance was another big issue. Obviously, when you're sitting here going to access either way, you want to be able to see down the road. You want to be able to see down this road for traffic. So that was definitely this right angle. You try to stay away from obtuse or acute angles when connecting intersections. That's why we realigned Winter Road into Frenchie's Way. You can see if we would have kept that there, you would have had this odd four-way intersection right here, and so that's why that got swept back in. And then just again trying to fix this old, or the existing I should say, Airport Road would have kind of come in there kind of funky. So again, just making that kind of right angle, get better line of sight on both ways. Truck movements. So this design was designed using a WB50 tractor, basically a 50-foot trailer. We know that we'll get at least that up at the airport with for fuel trucks. Occasionally, you'll probably get. Keith was mentioning one or two down this road. If we scale that back to a triaxle or a shorter truck, it doesn't really do much as far as where these points connect in. So it doesn't really help us to try to shift any geometry. Right away was considered too. Right now, I think when Joe was here, he had mentioned that the right of way on the current road was, he said 2.5 rods. When we look in the standard, the local standards, a collector is 60 feet. And so that's what we used, that's the maximum standard. The local right of way is less than that. It's 52.5 or 3 rods or 50 feet. If I recall correctly. So we use the most stringent right of way in through there, and you can see the blue dashed line. That's what that represents. The travel lanes are 2 12-foot travel lanes, and then there's a 2-foot gravel shoulder on either side of the road, and you can see that dashed line represents it. It's at such a large scale you don't see the gap, but basically that's the makeup.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's still state aid road from the corner where you're starting here up to the where you drive into the airport. So, I mean,
correct.
That's being taken into account. It isn't town standards, you gotta go with the state standards, right?
Well, we've actually had conversations with the state, and because, so the way the state looks at this is they're actually looking to do away with that section as a state aid portion of the road, and they're gonna stop their state aid. Right now their state aid stops up here, like you mentioned. They're gonna stop at the edge of the property here, because their definition is, I get you to the property. We kind of, in my mind, I argue that a little bit that, hey, that doesn't quite get you all the way to the airport. But the nice thing about that is it doesn't really change, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it doesn't really change the maintenance aspects. You're still gonna get money for maintenance. They're still gonna assist, I think, with plowing. You guys will do the plowing, but you're gonna build that road, and there's not gonna be, maintenance for, hopefully the next 15 or 20 years if we do it right. So they're gonna cut and there's a process to that, which is what we've been looking at, and we reviewed that with Tim and the town attorney, and they've looked at it. They feel it's a very simple process. The DOT's been involved in that. So, did that answer that question, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. The last thing was just minimum that we took into account for design is minimum intersection angle. So the side roads were brought into Loon Lake Road at 90 degrees, and again, I've kind of talked about that. So we want to bring this, obviously bring this to your attention, get any comments you have. Right now we're in a kind of a preliminary design phase, soon, moving into a final design phase for the entire project. So Tim thought it'd be good to get that in front of you guys, get some comments, and kind of move forward with that design.
Yeah, Jim?
Well, I got a couple of questions. You're having a public hearing about a taxiway, right? Isn't that what?
No.
Well, what's this article, you're having a...
That's a public informational meeting for the permit application, the site law permit application.
Well, I thought, way you said you're gonna take out the crown, that you probably wouldn't do a taxiway, right?
So, we're not constructing a taxiway, but we're permitting it.
Okay. Well, I guess, all right. And Rebecca gave us a thing here today, about the projects.
CIP? Yep.
Well, I look at that and I look at what the town share is. This might have been good information back when we had the vote, because all those projects, you're totaling $1,134,500. That's quite a chunk of money for the town over the next 5 to 6 years. Mm-hmm. I think that what might have, as everybody's been trying to say there, this is all gonna be free money and whatever, and this is gonna be quite an expense to the town over the next 5 or 6 years. I'm just saying, I know I asked for it, what the cost of all this was gonna be over the time to the town. And, you know, with the runway project, you're saying that, you know, they're gonna take the fill, so you can knock off the 482,000, but then again, you still have almost over 700,000 that's gonna come out of the taxpayers' money over the next 5 or 6 years. So, you know, as I said, I wasn't really against this, but I just wanted to know what the future costs were gonna be. And you know, we probably should have had this back before we voted so that the people could have seen that over time, this thing is gonna just keep drawing money. And I know right now it's kind of too late, but, you know,
Well, if I can answer, or just make a couple comments there. I think, I'm fairly certain that during the runway length analysis, that CIP was voted on by the board, if I'm not correct. You guys have seen that?
No,
I've
we
never
haven't
seen
seen this.
They voted on the parallel taxiway, which the money was, the estimate and amount was in there, and they voted on the runway length.
Oh,
And then
okay.
they voted on the construction of like a hangar.
I thought you
There's
guys
the
had
three,
seen that,
yeah.
because I guess I'd have to look back at my notes, but I thought I recalled you guys seeing that.
I don't remember
Yeah.
seeing these future projects and what they thought.
We have been very clear on the dollar amount of what the runway should be, and we've also been very clear, multiple times folks asked us in public meetings, the cost and expenditure, or proposed expenditure for a taxiway. Right now, we're only designing the runway, because that's what was voted on. I can say, just to add about the permitting, that the Army Corps of Engineers and Maine DEP specifically said we're not interested in doing multiple permits for multiple projects at one site. We prefer to do the site law, do it all at once. Very little money at all was spent on the permitting of a taxiway, but.
Well, I understand that, that's what you said, but, you know, I'm just looking, you know, when you see all this stuff, I'm just saying, you know, it's not just the extension. There's other things that are gonna just keep popping up here, so, you know, and I think we all asked, you know, what's the consequences of lengthening the runway, changing its status, and everything like that. And as far as I know, you never said anything about all this other stuff. You said, well, it could be this, could be that, but right here, you've got money that's gotta be laid out, and I'm just saying, you know, I think over time, if people had seen this, that, you know, it might have changed the outcome of what's happening up there.
Madam
It
Chair,
may
if I could
not.
respond to that.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we're here to talk about a road realignment, and all that the select board to date has approved is the design of the runway extension.
Mhm.
All of these other things are proposed things that are in the capital improvement plan that the FAA requires, a 5-year capital plan. We've outlaid that with the town and the FAA. And any of those projects that are listed there would have to be looked at by the select board and discussed and voted on before any of those other projects. To date, we've only come forward and we're working on the runway extension. So, yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the questions, Jim. So I think we've left it off. Are there any questions regarding Shane's presentation and the proposed changes? So I think, is it safe to assume that there are no homes along that Winter Way realignment? I see it's on town property, so, okay.
I think there's only one little change, and that's just right here, for that driveway here. It's a
Mhm.
small little section, it looks like that needs to connect in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna close Winter Road off and have them go up
French's
French's
Way.
Way and take a left, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, so that little section of Winter Road will be gone.
Correct.
Okay.
Joe, you had your hand up?
Has anybody talked to Wayne Wood about maybe Precious little corner of his plan there, he would soften that corner pretty easy? I don't know if anybody's approached him or if he's interested.
What property is his?
The
On the right-hand
storage.
side right there.
Oh, this one right here?
Right there.
Yeah.
it might entertain us, wouldn't hurt to ask you, I don't know.
It's the first it's been seen, Joe, so, yeah.
You might sell a little corner there, it might not, I don't know. Make it a lot softer corner, that's all.
Well, also, if I can ask.
Yeah,
one
go
more.
ahead, Jim.
You said you were gonna put culverts down there. How is that gonna affect his, how much water? Do you have any idea how much water's gonna come off there and go down that way?
Well, we've done the calculations. I can tell you that DEP will not let us build this without maintaining the water flow off the property as it stands today. We have to control quantity and quality, and I'll go through a lot of that stuff tomorrow night, but we have to contain quantity. So with that culvert there, wherever it crosses the line here, the property line, we have to maintain that flow.
All right, so you'll be going into more detail tomorrow night then?
Yep.
Yeah.
So just, if I may, just give a little update on kind of where we're at. So we're into preliminary design. We provided the town with preliminary design plans and specifications for their review to both Keith and Rebecca. So we're moving through final design right now. We'll be done with that hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Permitting, we had a meeting with DEP last week. Went very well. They're happy with the 2 permits we provided. Very little comments. That will go in the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow night we have an informational meeting. We'll go into that permit a little more in depth and all the specifics. The way we see it now, the next steps are to finalize the design, go out to bid, collect those bids. Hopefully we'll be out to bid sometime the last week of March, and then collect bids sometime the last week of April. Give them 4, possibly 5 weeks to bid on it. And then May 1st, a grant application goes in. And so the way we see it, the next time the board would need to provide some input to us is if and when the FA awards a grant for the project, then we would bring that to the board for review and approval.
How long does it usually take them between the time you send it to them and they approve for the
So these are bigger projects, so that we don't anticipate any sooner than really July or August.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller $2 or $3 million projects we've seen then, but we suspect that this will go, just based on history, it'll be August, September before it gets issued.
Now, does the money have to get approved by Congress, or is there money in the FAA already for this project?
Yeah, so discretionary grants are usually, there's a block of money that's approved by Congress, and then it's distributed amongst regions, and then the regions, at their discretion, are able to distribute the funds. And so, in theory, it's already been appropriated, it's just a matter of where they're gonna distribute it.
Okay.
The possibility that other projects that are a higher priority in the region come in at a higher level for bid, and it's possible they wouldn't fund this. There's never a guarantee. I've never had them say they guarantee.
So the FAA that's responsible for New England will decide where this money goes, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Steve?
Thank you. I was a tad bit confused to what Jim was talking about. We just received a copy of this. May I ask a few questions regarding this?
Go ahead.
2018, the first 3 lines down to 2019 and 2020, in these line items here, this is the project we're talking about, correct?
18 through 19, correct.
18 through 19. If you skip on down to 2023 pavement maintenance, we're going to peel that right off the board if they take the hump out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not part of the future expected expenditures as described a few minutes ago.
And can I just one quick note? This CIP gets looked at every year. Every we go to the DOT and the FAA, we sit down and we say, okay, does this plan change? Do we need to do something different? So that's where those sort of changes would get made, and they look at all the projects and they reprioritize as they need to.
Correct,
So.
thank you. But the point I'm making is that we can't look at this with the expectation that all this money is going to be expended based upon the runway expansion. Secondly, perimeter fencing is something that we have to decide upon. It's not a mandate, correct? All right, so let's again, not look at this thing, that's what we're gonna be spending each year, that's not a correct assumption.
Because I asked way back when about the fencing.
Right.
And
I
I
know
was
you
told,
did. I wanna bring it
we
up
don't
again.
need
Thank
it.
you, Tony.
And that's
Thank
still
you, Steve.
true when they
Okay,
change
thank you, Steve.
this, the airport from us.
When they change the lane.
I'm sorry, was that a
We
question,
won't have to
sir?
fence the airport in?
You never have to fence an airport in if you don't have the scheduled air service activity.
Okay, that's what determines. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Going once. Going twice. All right. Shane, Guy, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, jumping ahead to town manager report.
So the first, you have the written reports of economic development, the CEO, you get the police chief's report. You got my fire updates. We've had a high number of snowmobile accidents in the last couple of weeks. Two of them critical, two of them life-flighted, and I wanna make sure and reiterate that people need to be careful out on the lake with the ice, with the pressure ridges out there, they're hitting them, causing grave injuries to themselves, so. And the new rescue toboggan is working out absolutely phenomenal. Easy to load in and off, and really, it's been really well accepted. I'd like to thank the board for my sympathy card. Thank you very much for that.
Tim, just-
Can we mark that ice ridge anyway?
We mark it, we own liability for it. The ones won't mark it, and that's, no one will mark it, because once you mark it, you own the liability of it. So we looked into that a couple of years ago, and nobody goes out there and.
We do,
Yep.
we do put some natural small trees on it occasionally when it gets this bad, but it hasn't been done yet. We haven't discussed it at the Snowmobile Club, but we do that. It's like a tree blew out there. Little fir trees, just so you see it at night.
Yeah.
But then they go away in the lake, it's not a hazard or.
Do they post on the, like, the gas stations and stuff like that, the fact that there's a pressure ridge out there?
Everyone's aware of it, it's just accidents. You bring
Yeah.
3,000 to 4,000 snowmobiles into town, it's just. it
What would
happens.
you post it, even if you post it in your own business, now you're liable.
It's just,
Making
it's
this
like a
so
huge pothole on Route 4, you know what I mean, people are gonna wreck on it, and it's one you can't fix.
Yeah.
Well, but if they report it, they have to.
Equal amount of people get hurt on Route 17 probably.
Sorry, I was
All right,
someone had
continue.
asked me that, that's why I was.
So the other part of my update that I wanna, we have a frozen, I think, Kenny, have you been over there on High Street with that soil line yet?
Yep, Scotty went over there, and actually today, they're gonna dig tomorrow morning, and,
Okay.
yeah.
What is it frozed or is it
I think.
broken,
I think
or
the
frozen and
frost,
broken, or?
I think the frost, broke a piece of the pipe.
Okay,
They're gonna dig tomorrow to find out.
alright, so we got that, and that's gonna be an emergency purchase, we're gonna have to get that done, I think we got M&H. Keith's been working on it over the weekend, they're out, so that's gonna be, we're gonna have to get that done, take care of it. Calendar, you got anything for the calendar? So, we need, at your budget meeting on Thursday night, you'll need to vote for each department, each line. Not each line, each department rather.
What time is that stuff?
5.
About 5, and that's with the budget committee. We'll have to get that done, so we can get that to the
And that-
finance director, the clerk.
Yeah.
And then Thursday night, you want to set the date for the public?
It would be nice to set it, because
The sooner the better, so do you want to set the date tonight for the budget public? The public hearing where the public has a say to make changes. And it's gonna be before March 26th, correct? Right?
March 26th, public hearing on.
Oh, that's the drop dead date.
Recommends
So
change.
we gotta have it before then so we can make changes, so you tell me what. The sooner we set that, the better, the sooner we get it posted. It's already March 5th, so we want the public to be aware of it.
Yeah. I'm most likely will be out of town, the 19th and the 20th. Not definite yet.
Are we gonna have that at school or something probably, or?
Yeah, I would say so.
Wednesday, the 21st? Does that give you enough time to,
I'll check with the school tomorrow, make sure it's available, and
because you need time to prepare everything as well.
I believe that's when I have to drop the senior class bus, drive them down to the airport for their senior class trip.
It says the first day is the 22nd, but maybe,
I think they bumped it.
did they bump it?
I think
Okay.
they bumped it.
All right.
I'll find out when I get home tonight, because it's at 5:30, the meeting was today.
Any other date suggestions? All right, so we'll tentatively say the 21st,
And I will.
and then we can meet, we can talk with the budget committee, we'll be on Thursday. It's our final.
I'll check with the school tomorrow. We haven't set a date yet. No, I need to see if I can use the school. This is always in June, but like a week before the town meeting.
All right, so we'll go with the 21st. We'll try that.
Pending, yeah.
And,
And you'll let us know.
that's all I have.
Okay. Does the board have any information or communication to share?
Motion to adjourn.
I entertain a motion to adjourn. Donnie, and all those in favor? And so moved. Donnie, you were raising your hand, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. All right, so our final budget meeting will be this Thursday at 5 o'clock with the budget committee.
You know, it's supposed to snow high.
Yeah.
You're still gonna, no matter what?